Hi, welcome back to the UFS Virtual Wine Club. My name is Sam Vandegrift, and this is the first of two installments for the month of June. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and jump into this Shalem Chardonnay. This is the Enox Unoaked Chardonnay, which is a really beautiful, crisp, lemony wine. This comes from the Willamette Valley in Oregon, and Shalem's a word in the Kayapua language that means Valley of Flowers, which I think when you smell this wine, you're going to find is a pretty fitting description. We're going to run through the tasting process, and if at any point you want to pause the video to kind of back up and see where you're falling and as far as things looking or smelling or tasting, go ahead and do that. This is not something you have to run through all at once. Feel free to pause it, and I'm actually going to give you some prompts throughout the video to go ahead and do that. So if you take a look at this, right, this is the first thing we're going to see the wine. This is actually pretty light, really bright lemon yellow, and Chardonnay generally has a richer color because of the oak, but since this was done in stainless steel, you don't get that extra color. Give it a little swirl and then take a good sniff. I'll be curious for you to go through and smell what you smell, but I get a little lime curd, get some blossom, maybe a little acacia, it might be jasmine, something like that, but it's kind of a delicate white flower. A little bit of stoniness, but I don't think it's super minerally. And now I'm going to go ahead and take a sip, swish it around a little bit, and just kind of see what I taste. This is really delicious. It's creamy without being oaky. And so you get this kind of kefir yogurt quality to it, which is really pretty. Very refreshing. But then that lemon curd comes through, that lime curd comes through. This is going to be a really beautiful partner for both of those salmon dishes that you received in the packet along with your wines. And one of the things with salmon that comes with it normally is a little squeeze of lemon, and the brightness, the lemoniness in this Chardonnay is going to act the same way. So if you want to pause now and go back and taste the wine again at your own pace, please do. And while you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and get set up to the reds. And you'll notice I'm using two different glasses. That's not really on purpose, but it's more to illustrate that it's okay to use whatever glassware you have at your house. I think that people overthink the way that they're supposed to enjoy wine. Coffee mugs are fine, right? You got to think about your context. If I'm drinking really fancy wine, I probably want to have a fancy glass. But if I'm just drinking wine on a Tuesday night, I'm less concerned with that. I like to have a wine glass like this. I like the stem. I like the kind of bigger bowl so that you can release those aromas into it. But if this is more your aesthetic or this is what you have, this is great too. I don't think there's a reason to fuss about that. It's, this is supposed to be enjoyable. I want it to be easy. Let's go ahead and look at the color on the next two wines. So we're going to stay in Oregon again, and this is the Kate Arnold Pinot Noir, and this is the Ridgecrest Gamay Noir. So Gamay or Gamay Noir is this grape that comes from Burgundy, like Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. It's a little less famous as far as everybody is concerned, but it's kind of a nerd wine, and I love getting to taste these wines from Oregon because they are beautiful, they reflect the place very well, just like Pinot does, but they have a bit different personality. So again, we're going to run through the steps. We're going to taste each of these wines together. First thing I notice with the two wines is the color is so different. You'll notice that the Gamay is very purple in the glass, whereas the Pinot Noir has a little bit more of kind of a light raspberry color to it, and it's maybe even a little bit dusty towards the edge. So give it a little swirl, and I'm going to start with the Pinot Noir. It's the order that's on your sheet. I'm going to start with the Pinot Noir. And this smells very much like what I expect Oregon Pinot Noir to smell like. And what I mean by that, raspberry, cherry, bright red fruit, has a little foresty kind of leaf mushroom quality. But I also know that some of the fruit in this wine comes from the Rogue River Valley, which is southern Oregon, and my experience with Pinot from that area is it tends to have this really bright cinnamon kind of clove quality to it. So this is really pretty, and I'm going to give it a little taste. Great. So go ahead and pause the video now if you have a moment, or if you want to carry on, we're going to go right to the Gamay. So same thing. I'm going to go ahead and give this a swirl. Stick my nose in the glass. And this has a little bit of that same kind of foresty quality, but the fruit goes towards like a darker berry. So whereas this was like bright red fruit, this is more of a purple fruit. I think the color kind of gives that away a little bit, but this is more like plums, blackberries. And I think if you taste this, you're going to find that the weight of the wine is different, but the texture is different. So what do I mean by texture versus weight? Both of these wines I would describe as medium bodied, right? They have great acid, they have tannin, but it's not overpowering. And I'm also mostly getting tannin in the front. That's the part that makes your tongue kind of sticky. Whereas in the back, that would be where you'd be getting it from oak. The front is where you get it from the fruit. When I'm talking about the texture versus the weight, I think that this has a little more grippiness to it, and it's a little bit more rich. I'm not saying it's like heavy and super creamy, but I'm saying that this wine I think has a little more weight to it. I'd be curious to know what you think. So why did I pick these two wines? I picked these wines because when I'm thinking about American cuisine, and we're kind of going into Independence Day, salmon, particularly Chinook salmon, you might call it king salmon here in the Midwest. Chinook salmon to me is really, that is the dish of my childhood. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, and so June when the salmon are running, it's really a beautiful thing. And Pinot Noir it's one of the great American food and wine pairings. So I hope you try out the recipes, and I hope you had fun with this. So we'll be back in the next installment with a couple wines from Washington State. Thank you very much.